Yo, it's your boy Hermetic Lot sharing with you what I got so you don't become a bot. You know what it is, man. So in today's video, we're just gonna basically be talking about what's it called? The spectrums of like magic, right? And they're like three, and then if you want, I'll go deeper, right? But it's basically gonna be primitive, civilized, and modernized or futuristic. So primitive, or you can even say primal. Let's make it rhyme. Primal, civilized, and then modernized. You know what I'm saying? Or tribal as well. Doesn't matter, but you get the point. So number one, we'll talk about the first one. The first one is basically primitive. So primitive magic is not necessarily, when we say primitive, I don't mean like caveman. Oh, no, I don't mean like that necessarily. Primitive, I mean by the sense of the word primitive, meaning first, like primary school, first. First, that's what kind of quote unquote came first, right? And then what we have now is primitive magic. So primitive magic is basically when man was, in the jungle discovering things. This is kind of like what you have, what's called your sympathetic magic type of shit, you know what I'm saying? So your sympathetic magic, you know what it is, sympathetic magic, you act like something and that thing manifests in return. So for example, you act like a lion and then you possess the traits of a lion type of thing. But what makes primitive magic what it is that you're using your own energy, if that makes sense. You're using your own energy. So for example, like demonology, right? A lot of people, when it comes to demonology and angelology and all this type of shit, they think like, oh shit, angels and demons are very bad and all that shit, but they don't understand, like, they're not necessarily bad. That's a video on its own self, but basically a lot of people like to cut themselves and like wank and use period blood and all this type of shit for demonic magic and angel magic, but obviously the opposite, offerings and stuff. That's basically primitive magic, right? You're using the physical to manifest the non-physical. You get what I'm saying, right? You don't need to do that. The reason they do that is that because we're living in such a low density, it's to make it real, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's to make it like real. So by doing that, it becomes more real, but you don't need to do that. In another video, I'll talk about like when to strategically use these different types of three magics, because they are useful, but based on locality and level, if that makes sense. So this is just going to be a quick overview, right? And then the next one, it's called, we call it civilized. So civilized is basically, so we're moving away from that whole model of the physical, because that whole model, it has a lot of problems, because you have to train yourself physically, like that's why, like, not that we're being Christian or anything, in the Bible they're like, stop killing the cattle and stuff like that, because that's kind of like physical magic, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like why the world is kind of like trash, you know what I mean? Physical magic is very like destructive to the environment, long term speaking. Or if you're stupid, it's very dangerous, because where I'm living, people are doing physical magic where like they, instead of actually going inwards, now this is, we're moving towards civilized, instead of going inwards to heal and shit like that, they are going outwards. So they dumping in the rivers and all that type of shit. And that's kind of like hurting the environment and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So that causes a lot of problems, you feel me? It causes a lot of problems. So civilized magic is more understanding that it's your emotions and your intent. Or a popular application of this is when they they act out the rituals. You get what I'm saying? They act out the rituals, and by acting out the rituals, they they manifest those things in reality, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying? So like, for example, in the Grammys, they like to act out mythological things. You get what I'm saying? Which then makes you wonder, are mythological things a certain type of history? You know what I'm saying? So they act out these things, and then these things happen. It's similar to what we were saying before, but now instead of having a physical wand, your body is the wand, if that makes sense. We'll go deeper with this. Don't worry, we'll go deeper, because this should go deep. And then the last one is futuristic magic. And futuristic magic is basically that stuff, that woo-woo stuff, where you're leveraging energy, these different types of energies. Some call it subtle energy, psychotronic, psionic, radionic. It has lots of names, but it's these different types of energy. But they're all lumped as subtle energies or radio frequencies. There are a lot of names, right? But it's these abstract energies, these Aquarian energies, Uranian energies, right? And these are the energies you tap into to access higher states. So this is kind of like where people, they move shit with their mind. They can possess you and all this type of shit. All this weird stuff, this gurus and they can do and stuff. That's more the futuristic magic. So we were in future videos, we're gonna go deeper. This was just an introduction into the spectrum, and obviously there's stuff in the middle and stuff like that. But we'll go deeper. So hope you enjoyed this. Check you out. It's your boy Hermetic Lot, showing you what I got, so you don't become a bot. So cheers.